So it is a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me. I'm really looking forward to also have a bit of an interaction in the second part of the presentation. But first, a very brief introduction on myself. My name is Burcu, and I am a UX and service designer with over 12 years of experience. And I have worked in various design roles in my career, mostly in consultancies and agencies, but in the last couple of years as in-house design lead roles. I'm originally from Turkey. I have lived in the US and Denmark, and I'm currently settled in Stockholm, Sweden. I love acting, improvisational theater, cooking, arts and crafts, and traveling, which was not really that possible in the last couple of years. And for the last 1.5 years, I have been working at Electrolux as a digital product design lead. I would like to start by giving a bit of an introduction about Electrolux, but also our design team, our processes. So Electrolux is a leading global appliance company that has shaped living for the better for more than 100 years. And I chose this image on purpose because this is one of the images that I love. We do have a presentation that only consists of these kind of retro images and the facts that we have. In a minute, I will also play a video that would explain it much better than tons of different slides. So let me move on to that, and hopefully it works.
Hey Google, turn on the oven to 200 degrees and play some music.
Okay, turning the oven on. How about this song?
Life hasn't always been easy, but it certainly changed for the better over the last 100 years. Beginning in Sweden with the dream of reworking the heavy vacuum cleaners of the time, Electrolux founder Axel Wennergren revolutionized the existing technology to create the world's first truly mobile vacuum for the home, the Lux Model 5. For the once small Swedish company, this groundbreaking device was a huge success, and by 1925, the company had sold over 250,000 worldwide. Inspired to simplify home life, Electrolux quickly made its global mark, expanding business around the world. With a strong focus on industrial design from the late 1930s on, Electrolux quickly became a leading player. The company was easily identified by its selection of brave, beautiful, contemporary products. And while many advancements have been made over time, like the introduction of robotic vacuum cleaners and air purifiers, the Electrolux focus has remained unchanged: to make homes cleaner and healthier. Delicate wool garments have always been tricky to care for, and this was once true for all materials, with most washing done by hand. When Electrolux released its first home washing machine in 1951, laundry time was revolutionized. Introduced in private homes and communal laundromats, the home washer made cleaning clothes easier, extended the life of garments, and was gentler on the environment. Over time, more and more innovations hit the market, and when Electrolux released the A-class tumble dryer, it became the first to receive the prestigious Woolmark Apparel Care Gold specification. And today, with a full range of products that can care for wools and delicate materials, hand washing has become a thing of the past. Shaping life for the better has always been steering Electrolux. Through the 1940s and 50s, when women were entering the workforce, Electrolux developed kitchen products to simplify house chores. Revolutionary at the time, devices such as the kitchen assistant and the countertop round jar revolutionized home life. And refrigerators, simple storage units at first, have gone on to change the way we buy, store, prepare, and eat food. With our strong professional heritage and an ambition to create better consumer experiences, Electrolux continues developing innovative, sustainable, life-changing products, delivering professional tools to the conscious consumer and ensuring that real life is improved with each and every new product. From Freon-free fridges and power-efficient freezers to induction cooktops and voice-controlled ovens.
Hey Google, turn the lights in the oven off, please.
Okay, you got it. Turning lights and off.
Shaping living for the better. 100 years and continuing.
I always think that it's a great contrast to see what was happening 100 years before and now what kind of appliances and devices we interact with. We focus on three main areas, which we call taste, care, and well-being. Taste appliances include everything that you would find in a kitchen that is related with the cooking experiences, but also dishwashers and some small appliances. And within care, we include the washing machines, tumble dryers, and other small appliances for fabric care, such as irons. For well-being category, we offer vacuum cleaners, air conditioning equipment, water heaters, and heat pumps. And it's worth mentioning that Electrolux actually contains other main brands in the group. So AEG and Frigidaire are also the other two main brands we have. Some of them are more well-known and active in some markets. Electrolux is an exception. I think it covers most of the global market we have at the moment as one of the main brands. When we talk about creating these consumer experiences, of course, connected experiences plays a big role because it's one of the pillars of the digitalization journey of Electrolux. Digital first mindset, agility and scalability, cybersecurity, and standardized platforms are enablers for us to create the connected experiences we want to deliver for our consumers. And here you can see some images from the current mobile apps we have in the different business markets, some of the appliances we have, and also a screenshot from one of the partnerships we have, especially within the taste area. We have several design studios across the globe. Some of them are larger in size, some of them are smaller. But also let me give you a bit more information about the design function we have and the different design disciplines we have in the group. So we do have obviously designers focusing on the physicality of products. This group includes industrial designers, color, material, finish designers. Also, there is another interesting group which we call fit, feel, finish designers that focus more on the sensorial aspect, like touch, smell, and light. We do have user interface and interaction designers working with appliance user interfaces. We do have designers working with graphics and brand. And we do have digital product and service designers like myself working with digital products and services. Our design philosophy is based on what we call the human touch. We believe that in a more digital world, making technology more human is what will unlock our consumers' hearts and differentiate us from the rest. We strive to create remarkable, meaningful, and memorable experiences by making it contextually intelligent and tailored for the individual. We do have three main elements in the human touch philosophy. Foresight is about continuously interpreting trends and insights to develop a point of view about the future, which inspires and directs our work. The second one is creativity. It's about applying the unique sensibility and perspective of designers to identify opportunities, solve problems, and nurture a creative culture throughout Electrolux. And the third one is context. Designing for real use and thinking in terms of ecosystems beyond one product at a time. By truly understanding usage patterns and behaviors, we seek to simplify decisions and guide actions. Our design methodology is triple diamond, and it is, even though it seems like it's a linear process on the slide, it is far from that. It's more of a mindset that we embrace, and this process can actually be executed in any phase of any project we have. So we don't necessarily go through all these phases at once and finish it all. Sometimes we can go back, look at the opportunity, maybe tweak it a little bit. Sometimes towards the very end, we can also go back, revisit some of the design decisions we made and change them. But mainly understand phase, it's about understanding and really uncovering the opportunities and setting the direction And the outcome of this phase is usually a strategic opportunity or a direction that can be exemplified with some concept ideas at a very early stage. And in the create phase, we use creative techniques and tools to explore solutions, and we move towards a more clear, defined concept. And the outcome of this phase would be a final proof of concept. It can be in different formats. In the develop phase, this is about making the solution more tangible and detailing it further. If this is an object we are working on, it means that we give it a form. If it's digital, we define the interactions and user flows. We create prototypes. If it's a service, it can be a service blueprint. And the outcome of this phase is develop concept with known feasibility. And after that, we do have a phase that's a long journey until we get the product in the market. And this is the long road to the reality we have. If it's an object, our product development process defines the steps to execute. And sometimes this can be different depending on the different types of appliances. If it's digital or a service, we can execute it in the way of build, test, and iterate approach. Now I am going to go into the second part of my presentation. And at this point, it's worth mentioning that the rest of the content that I'm going to present and talk to you about only represents my individual point of view. It's not commonly shared by Electrolux. The first one, which can be very simple, and maybe many of you are familiar with this understand phase and doing research, be it design research or user research. But I still wanted to include this slide because I think there are a couple of important things that we can emphasize about understanding. So of course, we must understand the humans we're designing for thoroughly, not only their needs and pain points, but also the context they're living in, as I mentioned earlier. But within the context of Electrolux, the context is very, very difficult to really grasp, because if we think about the lifetime of an appliance, we talk about 7 to 10 years or even more. And if you think about that lifespan, the context that people have might change drastically, right? We move from one life stage to the other. And even in a daily basis, the context can vary. It can be different, for example, during a lunchtime than a dinner time for a family. If the consumer is living alone, the weekends can be very different than the weekdays. So the context can be very fluid in our context, and it's not always to really pinpoint what it is exactly. We also must understand the context the business is in and its challenges. So I cannot really emphasize enough to spend as much time as possible in the problem space to really understand and uncover the current situation. It's almost like the fable, the tortoise and the hare. Maybe some of you have heard about it, maybe not. But in our version, maybe the hare is more like jumping into the solution space really fast, and in the end discovering, oh, I have actually run in the wrong path all the way through. So maybe going a bit slower in the beginning would help you gain more speed when you're trying to come up with the solution. This is a quote that I really, really like because, of course, we talk about the importance of finding the right problem to solve, finding a problem that's worth solving, but it doesn't always guarantee you that you're going to have the solution. You almost have the solution, but not always, which is super important to keep in mind, because we always have to keep this critical mindset and question the decisions we make. Why am I telling this? Because I have seen over and over and over again in my experiences that people sometimes can be too quick to jump into solutions and take technology as the master. But technology only means it shouldn't be the end goal, right? And sometimes it can even be a trap because it lures people into the solution space too soon, too fast. You might ask, why is it bad to come up with a solution fast? Well, it always involves a couple of risks. It has a risk to create a delusion. almost like a delusional love that occurs when a person develops this delusional belief that they're loved from afar by another person, right? Everything that person does or says can be interpreted as declarations of love. And what happens when you fall in delusional love with an idea or solution you have? You believe that you have found an important problem to solve. Oh, you uncovered a big pain point or need people have for over the years. When you are maybe just twisting the reality and making up insights from your research that would work as false declarations of love. In the worst case, you might be forcing a problem that does not exist. And this is very, very tricky. What you see in this photo is a smart floss dispenser, which is called Floss Time. And they say that it's the world's first smart floss dispenser that will help you build daily flossing habits. I think it's from 2017. I don't know if they still exist. But when I looked into the product that merely reminds people to floss with this little circular light around the object, I realized maybe they haven't really dived deep enough to the reasons of why people are struggling to build the habit of flossing, not necessarily just building any other habit, but flossing in particular. And maybe it's not as simple as they simply forget, or reminding them to floss wouldn't necessarily motivate them to build the habit. Maybe it's more about the difficulty of flossing itself. Maybe it's about the material. Maybe it's about a particular movement they have to make. Maybe they find it disgusting, or it can be any other reason. But yeah, these things can happen, and they usually take part in lots of different fairs when people showcase, oh, this is a new smart object we have created. But maybe shortly after that, these kind of objects also take part in some of the blogs as the worst IoT devices or any other technological devices, which can be also quite embarrassing. You might be now thinking, well, obviously, why are you telling us about the importance of collaboration? Because I have a point to make. I don't mean setting up more meetings to align on things by close collaboration. Because organizations are structured in a way that either enables and facilitates the collaboration or hinders it. And recently I have read about the Conway's Law, which is an IT theory from 1967. And it's written in a paper by Melvin Conway. And he states in this paper that any organization that designs a system will produce a design whose structure is a copy of the organization's communication structure. In other words, an organization's output is directly related to how it communicates internally. Now, I find this really interesting. Even though Conway's Law is mostly associated with the software development nowadays, it's way beyond that. Because internal information silos we create lead to a fragmented user experience in the end. And this is closely linked to the organization charts we have nowadays. In smaller scopes of collaboration that involves maybe different design disciplines, we might be doing quite a good job. But in larger scopes that requires this kind of collaboration to happen between different business units and across geographies, then it can be really difficult. And I think it could be only fair to say that we still have room for improvement. We shape our organizations, therefore they shape us. Now, before moving on to the last part of this presentation and getting your questions, I would like you to interact a little bit in the chat. What do you think that gets in the way of creating those great experiences we would like to create for our consumers? What's your experience? You can write a couple of words so we can have a look and see if there is any of those that I will be covering. Beliefs, routines, habits, organizational dynamics. Clara, you're onto something. Not spending enough time to explore the problem. Yeah, that is true. Trying to put an interface on everything. I see familiar names and faces. Thanks, guys, for joining. Previous experiences, ways of doing things, prejudgments. Yeah. I think I'll be talking about a couple of these things. Let's see if there is any more coming up. So the first one is, it can sound very trivial in the digital world we are living in, especially when we look at all the digital product and services around us. Agility and speed are not that easy to achieve, though, for hardware companies. It takes a lot more time to build hardware, and build, test, iterate cycle can not be always applicable because it can be very costly and slow. It even becomes more interesting and tricky when you try to bring these two different worlds come together and create a digital experience, a connected experience for a hardware product. One's process is mapped on long timelines with handovers between different teams, whereas the others is mostly about the sprint cycles, delivering fast, iteration, autonomy, and working together. This is a current challenge, an interesting one that we are having as a company. So it's also hard not to talk about change when we talk about topics like this, because creating an experience, especially a connected experience, is a part of the big transformation that we are currently going through. And I'm not going to talk about the fear of change, which is obviously an important factor in hindering us from creating great experiences. But I would like to touch upon another aspect of change. So what you see here on the screen is two main definitions that I looked up. And the second one, what change means: replace something with something else, especially something of the same kind that's newer or better. Substitute one thing for another. So it talks about substituting. It doesn't talk about bringing new onto the old, right? It's not only embracing the new, but also giving up old stuff. This could be old ways of working, old processes and systems, like you also stated in the chat. When you're willing to give up any of the old, when you're not willing to give up any of the old, then you don't really cultivate the environment for the new to survive and flourish. It's almost like this overflowing wardrobe analogy, because we all have limited spaces in our homes, right? And if we keep bringing new clothes in, at some point we are going to run into this kind of situation and create a really, really difficult situation for us, which we will feel more frustrated, annoyed in the end, and it's gonna cause us spend more time in the morning trying to decide. It's going to be a nightmare to organize. And in the end, I think the new is not going to be noticeable in this mess that we could create. This is, I think, what Clara was pointing at. As you can imagine, in all large corporations like Electrolux, several teams are working on several problems to solve at any given time. And many of those are actually connected, or at the very least, they would impact each other. Some problems are more complex, some are less, some are addressing long-term solutions, some are more for short-term solutions. Well, you can look at this picture and think of the organization as these people at the crossroad. The people could represent projects or processes, right? Not everybody is following the same route. Not everybody is walking at the same speed. And some of these individuals might bump into each other. Maybe some are trying to meet one another, but they might get interrupted. So I think the thing that we need to think about is like, how can we facilitate this flow and interconnection at a larger scale without even slowing us further? I always find it really fascinating to look at the nature and see these perfectly designed systems. And the question that I would like to bring up is also, how can we build organizations that are like a flock of birds, keeping the individual, team, and organizational movement, yet doing it in such harmony and towards the same direction? And in this flock of birds, each bird has also a different movement. They also have this flexibility. So that's the end of my presentation. Thanks a lot for listening. Now we can have a look at the questions.
Thank you so much, Burcu. We do a little bit of a clap across the room, a little bit of applause. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
I saw some really exciting comments and some contributions in the chat as well. Very conscious of time and the fact that we have 1 minute left. I'm not sure if we can go through all the question, let alone if we can even go through the question, but what I do want to invite you to is that I send over the questions, and we can definitely follow up with the participants to make sure that we can deliver some insights on all the amazing stuff that you have been sharing with us today. So let's do that. Maybe we can stop sharing screen for a second so that I can properly thank you for today. It has been a really nice talk. I see a lot of thank yous as well coming up in the Zoom chat. Let's follow up with everyone who has been attending and answer still the questions so that we can share some of these insights. But as a last thing before, because we're already at 1:30 or 12:30, depending on where you are, let's just launch a quick poll about the overall experience of those who are here with us today. And then I'm going to let everyone go back to the rest of their schedules and their calendars. I want to say a big thank you to you, Burcu, for sharing all of your learnings and insight at Electrolux. Really keen to hear about everyone's experience as well. Thanks so much for joining in. And I hope that I will see every one of you next time in another lunch talk. Thanks so much. And have an amazing
Thank you very much. Let's make sure that we are going to address all the questions asked. Maybe you can send a post later on.
Yes, I will definitely do so. All right. Have a good day, everyone.